All right, well, I'm going to get started then. So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Annette Durnak, and I'm the Director of Business Development for the Penn State Lehigh Valley LaunchBox. Welcome to today's program. So today you're going to be hearing from 3 female entrepreneurs sharing with you their stories about reimagining their success. It's going to be very interesting. They each have different circumstances and stories that they'll be sharing with us. It's going to be quite exciting, so we're looking forward to hearing from them. Before we get started, I do just want to ask everyone to please keep your microphones muted during the presentation, if you would. At the end, we will have anyone that wants to stay on. You can feel free to unmute your mics at that time, and then we can have some discussion amongst us. You can ask additional questions of the panelists. You will have the option of inserting questions into the chat box if you'd like, and we'll take those questions as time permits. I'm sharing my screen, as you can see, but I will come to a point where I won't be sharing. You have the option of watching the speaker view or gallery view, and you can adjust that at the top right of your screen, so feel free to manage that however you'd like. I am recording the program, and again, you will all be visible on the screen, so you have the option of having your video on or off. That's entirely up to you. But again, we look forward to seeing your smiling faces if you want to share that with us. And please also follow us on social media if you would. Don't hesitate to mention us at LV LaunchBox and #LaunchBox. So with that, I'd like to introduce to you our Chancellor, Dr. Tina Richardson. She's been the Chancellor at Penn State Lehigh Valley since 2015, very involved in leadership initiatives for women throughout her career, starting at Lehigh University. She's got a doctorate in counseling psychology. She's the recipient of numerous awards for her educational leadership. She serves on several community boards, and I need to mention that she is the founder of LaunchBox Ladies, so we can thank her for bringing together this amazing group of women. And last, she's the recipient of the 2020 Women of Influence Award. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Richardson to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Annette. It is wonderful to have these types of events. Since the pandemic shook our lives more than 5 months ago, we've hosted several LaunchBox events to elevate the innovation of entrepreneurs and business leaders. From a distillery pivoting to produce hand sanitizer, to close contact businesses finding creative ways to remain connected to their clients, I've been both fascinated and impressed at how their business models have evolved. Everything had to change for these businesses, everything from operations to marketing to customer service and so much more. It was important for us to address issues with entrepreneurs, but to take a specific look at female entrepreneurs. The disparity between male and female entrepreneurs is a very real challenge that we have to overcome. And if you add COVID into the equation, it's an even more difficult issue and a difficult time to address it. However, we know that every 10 men starting a business, for every 10 men, there are only 7 women. And that was a driving force for why we wanted to start LaunchBox Ladies. We wanted to surround women entrepreneurs with a powerful network of support and the mentorship that they might want and need. The women you'll hear from today are tenacious and inspiring examples of how to reimagine your success during uncertain times. Let me now turn to our moderator, Justine Bartholomew. Justine is a former member of the Lehigh Valley LaunchBox Advisory Board and is a recent contributor to our new mastermind program that we offer to support entrepreneurs. She currently works at Harford Funds as a strategic marketing consultant, focusing on expanding their digital strategy. She's a proud Penn State Lehigh Valley alumna and earned her MBA from DeSales University. So welcome, Justine, and thank you for moderating for us today.
Thank you, Dr. Richardson. Thanks for the intro. I'm gonna introduce our three panelists, and then we will get into some questions that we have for them. That it's a good lineup. So first we have Kristen Walls. She's the Director of Development at the Literacy Center. She has 12 years of nonprofit experience in the heritage tourism and anti-hunger fields. Her background includes team leadership, donor relations, grant writing, volunteer engagement, and visitor experience. So look forward to hearing from you, Kristen. Next, we have Rosemary. She is a web designer and owner of Rosemary Yardley Design. She pivoted her engineering career and started her business after having her son. She loves creating websites and logos that help her clients meet their goals and reach their target audience. Thank you, Rosemary. And then we have Fatima Alba. She currently is working as an operation manager at CVS Pharmacy and is one of the youngest managers in the organization. She's a new recent Penn State Lehigh Valley graduate, and she has worked multiple manager level jobs while going to school full time. And she's also a former member of the LaunchBox Ladies Council. So we have a lot of questions to get to. I'm gonna jump right in. We appreciate you all being here. Before we get started, just a couple notes for the listeners. Quick reminder that you can place questions that you have in the chat. So any questions that you think of while we're going through the lineup that we have, we'll get to those at the end. Reminder to keep yourself on mute, and feel free to stay on at the end as well and network with other participants and the panelists. So let's start off with Kristen. If you can just give us a quick overview of yourself and your recent pivot in your career.
Sure. So thank you, Justine. Thank you to Annette and Janelle, Dr. Richardson, for having me on the panel. I was really honored to be asked to share my story. So hopefully everyone finds it a little bit helpful for them as well. So I grew up in the Lehigh Valley. I was really interested in history for a long time. So I got my bachelor's in history, and I wanted to go into museum work. So I have a master's in museum studies. So I've worked in the heritage tourism field for a long time. I did a short stint with Feed the Children for 3 years in the anti-hunger field. And that really introduced to me the disparities that exist in the Lehigh Valley. So most recently, I was with Historic Bethlehem Museums and Sites as the Director of Development there, but I've had a hunger to get back into impacting my community in a more direct manner. My husband and I are moving to Macungie, so we had the opportunity to kind of rethink my career and where I want to be. And the opportunity at the Literacy Center was shared with me, and I jumped at it. And thankfully, the team brought me on. I'm very, very blessed to be with such a hardworking group of individuals. I love what I do. And probably the oddest part about the whole pivot is my first day was March 16th, which was the first day our whole team went remote. So I didn't see my office until maybe about a month ago, when I was able to go in by myself with gloves and a mask and hand sanitizer and the whole 9 yards just to use the printer. So it's been an interesting pivot, not only career-wise, but also I think the work from home aspect that we're all having to deal with right now. So hopefully that will have some help for you for today's chat.
Thanks, Kristen. Definitely going to circle back on that interesting start you have there later on. So Fatima, let's move over to you. Same question. What's your recent pivot? You just graduated. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I want to start by saying thank you. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to share with all you guys. So I grew up in the Bronx. I'm actually from New York, and I moved here, I want to say about 8 or 9 years ago. And I went to Lehigh Carbon Community College for my associates. I got my associates in business administration, and then I transferred to Penn State to finish my other 2 years in corporate comm. I'm a recent grad, 2020, we are. And I'm currently the manager at CVS. I'm their operational manager. I've been there for almost 4 years. But before that, I used to be the manager at Kmart, which doesn't exist anymore. But I was the manager there. And before that, I was a manager at a computer store. So that's my manager experience. I also work for the Bethlehem Area School District. I do a lot of like their corporate comm stuff. So I help with events, and I did my internship there, which after turned into a job, which I'm very grateful for. Now dealing with COVID-19 in, a pharmacy is not the best scenario. So that was a very challenging times for me when it started. I have to deal with one-on-one contact on a daily basis with everybody that's sick. And then also trying to start my career in my major has been really hard, just because we don't do face-to-face interviews anymore. And like just trying to market myself and putting myself out there is kind of hard, I think, through Zoom for the most part. So it's just like that transition has definitely been a pivot in my career right now as a recent graduate.
Yeah, that's great. And really quick before we move on, I just want to share some news with everybody. Fatima recently just was rewarded the Heart of the Lion Award from Penn State. So someone who, had a little bit of a struggle and a long path, and really just came through and has shown tremendous success. And I think they use the word grit. Is that what they said? You have extreme grit. So congratulations.
Thank you.
It's very, very impressive and exciting. So
thank you. Thank you, Penn State, for that award. I really appreciate it.
all right, Rosemary, let's get to you. If you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your shift. I think this is a major one. So interested to hear how that happened and what the background of that is.
Sure, yeah. So I'd also like to start by thanking Annette, Janelle, and Dr. Richardson and Rita Guthrie for recommending me and inviting me into this awesome panel. I'm really excited to be with these women and share my story. So like Kristen, I grew up in the Lehigh Valley. I went to Emmaus High School, and then I went to Cornell to study engineering. So I worked as a water resources engineer for about 5 years. And then I had my son. So I had my son in 2018. It was a little bit of a surprise. It came a little earlier than we thought. So I kind of adjusted to that. And when I went back to work full time, I really struggled with it. So I didn't see him as much as I wanted to. And I didn't really expect how much I struggled with trying to balance working full time with having my son and not being there. I was missing a lot of milestones. So between that and I also, I had taken art classes all through college. I loved doing art and design work. And I was really kind of craving more of that creativity from my career. So for those two reasons, I enrolled in a coding and design program. So I did that at nights while I was working full-time still. For a while I did that until I was able to finish the program and started getting a few small clients at first, a few small projects, still working full-time at that point, until I felt comfortable that I was ready to take the plunge. So last year, a little over a year ago, I took the plunge and left my job to commit to my design business full-time. So I've been doing that for a little over a year now. Right when I started ramping up with my business is when COVID hit. Things were starting to grow a lot and I was getting projects, and then COVID hit and everything stalled out. Pretty much all of my projects at that time stalled out so that my clients could focus on their business, and it was a tough time for everyone. So I guess it's kind of two pivots, the pivot to web design from engineering. And then when COVID hit, I've pivoted my approach to running my business a little bit, doing more virtual networking. I use the downtime to kind of spend some time with my family, but also think about how running the business was going. Did I want to change anything? Things like that. So I think that's basically it. Happy to be here, and thank you.
Thank you, Rosemary. So I want to roll right into our next question with you, because I imagine this one's gonna be quite different for yourself with your situation. So what does success look like to you now versus what it did in your previous career path?
Yeah, so I would say in my previous career path, it was kind of the stereotypical view of success that people have, which is moving up in the company, moving maybe into a manager role, getting promotions, things like that. And once I had my son, it really shifted for me. Success was more, where is my time going? Where am I spending my time? What does my quality of life look like? Things that are, whether you have kids or not, many people view as a different way to measure success. So now with running my business, I would say success to me is reaching a point of stability and growth with my business to where I can help provide for my family and also have that flexibility, have more time to spend with my family.
Yeah, that's great. And it definitely is quite a shift. And it's interesting, during the virtual time that we're in now, I think a lot of people are starting to reimagine what their career path is and what their role looks like and what success is for them. So I think a lot of people can commiserate with you there. Fatima, I think you will have an interesting answer too. You just graduated, right? So what's success going to look like for you now in the future?
Honestly, it's a little challenging, I think, just for everything that's going on. I feel like I'm very successful in my management field. I've been one of the youngest managers, so I have one of the top jobs in CVS in my current store. So when it comes to that, I feel like that's successful. But when it comes to my career and my major, I feel like moving forward, that's what success kind of looks to me, just finding a job where I have that stability, like Rosemary said, of, being able to provide for myself and my family, as well as being able to help the community. I love the Lehigh Valley and I want to stay in this general area. So I feel like success for me moving forward is just finding that place where I can grow and hopefully be the VP of somewhere sometime for me.
Gotta aim high. That's great. All right, Kristen, you just started a new role. Does success look differently for you now from where you were before?
Yes, so if there's other development directors on the call or anybody who's had to fundraise before, your goal is always meet your fundraising goal. But since COVID started, I've felt a much larger responsibility that it's not about the dollars. It's about the people. I have more of a responsibility now to raise that money to ensure the livelihoods of not only our staff, but also our students. So if I don't meet those goals, I could be the reason why they don't succeed. So there's a much larger responsibility now that comes with fundraising in a COVID world. I kind of came into this all bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, thinking, oh, a new job, oh, I'm gonna get, a new briefcase. And now it's really turned into, I need to do this to ensure that my team keeps their jobs, our organization continues to sustain itself, not just this year and next year, but for many years moving forward, to ensure that our students continue to reap those benefits.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And the next thing I wanted to talk with you guys about is what the challenges kind of are moving into a new role, a new career, and things like that. So, Kristen, I think we know that being virtual is a challenge for you and COVID. And I think everyone right now, this new virtual environment is challenging and it's a shift in strategy. So besides the virtual world, is there anything else that you see challenging making that pivot for yourself?
I think it was, you know, just like anybody else starting a new job, you have to learn a lot about the new organization. I kind of came in at a time when there were a lot of grants. So thankfully, I had to hit the ground running, and I learned a lot about the organization just by writing grants. You know, I didn't need to be in person to hear it from the staff. We were able to communicate via Zoom and phone calls. So, and I think, you know, we're all going to struggle with virtual, but one of the key parts of my job is forming relationships. So now I'm having to form virtual relationships. So I kind of feel like I'm back on instant messenger back in the early 2000s and making, you know, pen pals or something. It's become a totally different atmosphere. You know, I think it's, the additional piece is because it's virtual, because you're working from home. I always kind of thought that I was totally mentally 100% okay. And long about end of March, early April, I just became utterly depressed, and I've never had that happen ever. And it was just kind of, that was the doom and gloom part, if everybody remembers doom and gloom of you know, early April. I think that was hard, but I thankfully am with an organization that has classes. We introduced a new work from home series of programs. My colleague who created it is actually on the call today. So, and it was in that class I took it. I'm very lucky to have a supervisor who felt everybody on the team needed to take this class. And it was in that class that I was able to kind of reevaluate my mental well-being and understand, listen, you need to get away from the computer, or you need to take some time, or maybe you should go for a walk with your husband and just talk about flowers or something. And that was a big piece for me once I got through that class and kind of was able to better understand when I was mentally not okay, and had the ability to say, it's okay for me to step away from the computer and take care of myself. So my tip to everybody, give yourself permission to step away and focus on yourself now and then. It's important.
Yeah, that's great advice, I think. Thank you for being so candid, because this has been a hard time for a lot of people. And I do want to circle back to the virtual world a little bit at the end here, because there are a lot of things to talk about. And I'm sure a lot of the questions that we get from our listeners are going to be around how you transitioned during that time. So it's definitely something I think that's at the top of mind. And it's great that you guys have those classes. So thanks for sharing. Fatima, I know for you, obviously, the interview process is different now. It's all virtual. That's going to be a challenge. You're in an industry that's pretty impacted by COVID. So do you have anything else to share with challenges and how you kind of have worked through that?
For challenges, I feel like it has been kind of like a divided, at CVS, mostly the challenges of like just dealing with that one-on-one contact with people, as well as dealing with my associates. I also have to make sure that they're safe and that they're being safe. And I also have to deal with a lot of elderly people that we work with, that we have to make sure that, you know, they're being safe and they're at home, and then covering those hours. So working 60+ hours plus finishing school at that time, at the beginning of it, was a little bit of a challenge. It was just having to time management a lot. It kind of worked out that everything went online, because I probably wouldn't be making a lot of my classes at that time. But just working that 60+ hours and then having that transition to like, okay, I got my degree, now what? Now I have to do interviews online, and how do I network online? Like, it's different when you like go up to a person and give them your business card and introduce yourself and you talk a little bit, and then when you have to do it through Zoom, I feel like it's so much faster, and like you don't really get to actually have that networking experience that we're used to, especially with LaunchBox. That was a really big transition for me. I currently did a couple interviews and I met like 8 people in a company, and it's like, oh, okay, well, 5 interviews for one job. And like, usually you don't see that. It's usually like 2 or 3. And now it's like, oh, no, 5 Zoom interviews in like a week.
Yeah.
So that was a major challenge, I think.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, you're setting yourself up for success for sure. And thank you for keeping CVS operating. I know a lot of us probably don't have frontline jobs like that. So thank you for what you were doing. And it definitely had to be stressful for
Thank
sure.
you.
So
A little crazy, but day by day, you just breathe
Yeah.
and you move on. Just keep swimming.
That's perfect. Such a good attitude. Rosemary, how about you? I know you had mentioned the virtual shift has been a challenge. Anything else that you want to add there?
Yeah, I would say in terms of a challenge with making the pivot pre-COVID, outside of COVID, my biggest challenge was the fear of the unknown with making such a major change. I definitely had a lot of self-doubt and fear, and I think what I ultimately had to do was decide, kind of figure out, is this fear the normal fear that comes with a big, awesome change that sometimes is good? Or is this fear because this is something I shouldn't be doing and it's trying to protect me? So to try to kind of identify where is this fear coming from? And for me, that was how I was able to overcome the fear, because I figured out, no, it's fear because this is big and scary, but in a good way. And it's something that I can do. And so once I was able to decipher that, then I had the confidence. I'm still scared. I was scared, and there's always a little bit of fear when you're doing something new and out on your own, but it's a good fear, and you can use it to fuel you. And as long as it's fear from a good change and not trying to protect me from something I shouldn't be doing, that was the biggest piece for me, was identifying that, and then that helped me to be able to overcome it and push forward.
Yeah, that's great. It's definitely tough, especially your transition was such a big leap. It's 2 completely different things. So I can imagine that uncertainty, and especially starting your own business. So I want to get to that a little more later about some advice that you might have for people, but we'll circle back on that. So Fatima, what have you learned about yourself throughout this whole process? I think it's important for all of us to kind of take a step back and think about what it means for us and self-reflect a little bit, especially during these times. So what have you learned about yourself, the process through this pivot? Oh, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, guys.
No, you're fine.
I think all this experience taught me the fact that I'm like really patient. At first, I used to be like, no, I have no patience. Like, I can't, no, like, let's move on. Like, I thought I was, but I'm actually really patient, and we all have to be really patient. I thought my vision for after graduation was like, okay, I'll have a month to get everything, and then I'll land a job and I'll be great. And, now it's just that understanding of like, it's going to take a little bit of time, and it's going to take all this just getting clear, and COVID just kind of relaxing, and just have that patience of, okay, this is not going to happen right now, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. And then not letting that get to you on a daily basis. Just like you guys said before, like, you go through that sometimes, where days that you wake up and you're like, no, like, I'm so sad, like, I'm so depressed, I don't know what to do, like. But I also had a good support system. Dr. Gutgold right there. She helped me a lot. When I'm like going crazy, I like call her and I'm like, I'm going crazy. But just having that patience I think I learned that a lot for myself, that I have to be more patient with myself and know that like I have what it takes to do it, and I will eventually. We just are going through rough times. And I guess it's because I'm so young. I had never experienced something like this. So it was like a total shock for me when it came to dealing with this and just having to transition so quickly. I feel like we all transition so quickly.
Absolutely.
We can do that.
I might need to.
At the same time, like yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say I might need to connect with you after this and get some tips on patience, because I feel like I could use some of that in my life. So I'll be in touch. Rosemary, how about you? What have you learned about yourself through your pivot?
I would say the biggest thing that I learned about myself is that I'm a huge people pleaser. And I already knew that, but I didn't realize how bad it was and how it can affect so many aspects of your life. So in that sense, I'm really grateful for this kind of wake-up call, because it's something that is important to work on and set boundaries for yourself. In my engineering career, I had a manager who, you know, it was their job to say, okay, this work is for you, this work is for someone else. Let's make sure it's even. Everyone has, you know, an equal amount. No one's overwhelmed. Whereas when you run your own business, you're the manager and the employee. So it's up to you to decide how much are you going to take on? What are you going to say yes to? What are you saying no to? What do you need to say yes, but that costs more because that wasn't in our project? Things like that, that I'm finding I'm very uncomfortable to do those things because I want to say yes to everything and I want to help everyone. And but I've learned very quickly that you just can't. You have to set boundaries and you know, decide what your deal breakers are and things like that. So I would say that's the biggest thing that I learned, which was unexpected. That's not something I expected to learn. But again, I'm grateful for the lesson and I'm going to keep working on it. It's definitely a work in progress. But it's something that I think can, you know, apply to other areas of my life too. So it's good to have learned that.
Absolutely. I think everything you guys are saying is making me self-reflect a little bit too, and I can commiserate with all of you. So thank you for sharing. Kristen, let's go to you. What about you? Have you learned anything?
I think my biggest thing is to have more confidence in myself and my abilities. My background in heritage tourism was very much focused on visitor experience. So I ran the visitor center in Bethlehem. So if my face looks familiar, maybe we met that way. I was a barista for 8 years at Barnes and Noble. If you ever came for a coffee, maybe we met that way. I've always been very frontward facing and customer service interactions. And so when my boss at my last position kind of came to me and said, I think you would be great as a development director. I didn't apply to that job. She kind of identified in me the skills that were needed to do this work. So I transitioned to that, I think that was 2018. So I haven't been in development for a long time, but I've been doing fundraising for a long time in my positions. But I didn't believe that I really could be the development director. And this COVID piece really threw, you know, a curveball for me. But I'm really lucky with the organization that I'm with. You know, everyone is very supportive. My boss is giving me those opportunities to shine, and I'm finding that I should have more confidence in myself and that I can do it. And you know, I have secured funding, and I can't, you know, it's a teamwork, but I had a really major part in it. I have to identify that and say, you can do this, and you should have confidence in yourself. So everyone, have confidence in yourself because you can do the things. And I feel like, you know, COVID's kind of really made me more aware of that because there's no one else in the room with me. It's just me in my spare bedroom, and it's what I can bring to the table. So I definitely gained a lot of confidence in this process.
Yeah, that's great. I think you carry yourself very well. So I didn't even notice. I didn't know that you didn't have confidence. So you're doing great.
What do they call it? Is it imposter syndrome?
Imposter
Is that what they
syndrome?
call it?
Yeah.
I think we all suffer a little bit from that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to shift really quick to kind of a topic that you're covering. Confidence, I think, is something that a lot of women struggle with in the workforce. I don't think you're alone there at all. I know depending on who you're around, what the environment is like at your company, certain meetings you're in with higher ups, SLT members. I think all of us have experienced at one point or another a little lack of confidence in what we're doing. So as a woman, do you think when, Kristen, I'm going to start with you on this one, in your situation of pivoting your career, is there anything you think that was different because you are a woman?
I don't know that it was necessarily, I think it would have been maybe the same situation for a man. I do, you know, some members of my team are on the call, so they see how I look in a normal, you know, internal meeting. So, you know, it's not as, I don't have my hair curled, you know, so, but I think for a woman, we feel the need that we have to curl our hair and we have to put the lipstick on if we're going to make a real impression. And I think this virtual piece has made it even worse, because now I'm cognizant of what's behind me, and can people see my dog when she comes in? And you know, I think that appearance piece of you know, that the fact that we always have to be on as women, and we feel that that's the case. My hope, and it's something I talked to with my mother-in-law. She's an executive vice president with a leading test facility for medical pieces. But she and I kind of talked about this recently, and she said, you know, I feel like something's going to change where women are not going to be expected to constantly have on the blazer and constantly have on the high heel shoes now. You know, I would probably estimate that maybe about 75% of us don't have shoes on right now. So, you know, we're starting to feel a little more relaxed, and maybe our personalities are starting to shine more, and that confidence then can build just based on your personality and not how you look. That's my hope, at least.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think, you know, it depends industry to industry. Fatima, being at CVS, they're a big organization. Do you see anything on your end that might be different because you're a woman?
I was gonna do it again, guys. Necessarily not right now. When I first started as a manager, I would always get that look of like, who's your manager? And I'm like, it's me, kind of thing. I would get that a lot, especially as a younger manager. That's one thing that I would get a lot of, like, can I say your manager? Like, I think that's it. When it comes to COVID now, not really. I think we have established ourselves in many different fields, and I think that has helped, especially my generation. Thank you, all you guys. I feel like there's a lot to do, but we're getting to a place where I think is like, is that more expected of us? It's like we can do it, and we're going to regardless. So I think that's
I agree. That's a good point. I think there has been good progress, and I think groups like LaunchBox Ladies and having this network has really helped as well. Rosemary, I know you are on your own now and you have your own business, so maybe it doesn't apply as much for you now, but before, when you were with the engineering company, did you experience anything?
Yeah, I definitely did. I was the only woman engineer at my firm. And I definitely found people would go to lower level men for questions before they would come to me. Sometimes, not all the time, just sometimes, you know, so certain people and clients would just assume that the men in the room would know the answers and I wouldn't. So things like that, I guess. But the way that it kind of applied to my business is when I made the pivot. That's when I really experienced it. When I made the pivot, I found that everybody had an opinion and they were very open to sharing it with me in terms of my decision on what kind of mom I wanted to be. And was I leaving my career for my kid, or was I doing it for myself? And it was amazing to me that you couldn't win. There were people that thought you should be home and not working, and people that thought you should be totally dedicated to your career. And I was trying to find this kind of middle option that I'm kind of making up. And so I struggled with that because as much as I wish I didn't, I care what other people think. And so I definitely struggled with that. And I think the way that I kind of overcame it and what I would suggest to other people is, I read this somewhere, and a lot of you have probably heard it, that your opinion of me is none of my business. And when it comes to a business, obviously your reputation matters, but in terms of your personal choices as to where you want to take your career, and if you make the pivot and what that looks like, that's really personal. And you can get advice from, wise, trusted people, but at the end of the day, you have to do what's best for you and what's best for your family, and not worry so much what other people think. And a lot of times when people are kind of judging you or telling you that what you're doing is wrong, a lot of times it's a projection of their own insecurities, of maybe they wish they had done something differently, or had an experience that is causing them to project that onto you. And a lot of times when people have negative things to say, it has more to do with what's going on with them than what's going on with you. So that's a long way of saying, when it comes to making a pivot in your career, you really just stay true to yourself, and at the end of the day, do what's best for you, and try not to care too much about what other people think.
Yeah, that's great. I do want to ask you all for some advice, but before I do that, if anyone has any questions for the panelists, if you want to start putting them in the chat now, and we'll get to them in a minute. Rosemary, you just covered a lot, and that was a really great, inspiring answer for the last one. Do you have any other advice for anyone? This is shifting your careers is really tough, and I think a lot of people are hesitant to do it. It's scary, like you said before, it's unknown. So any other advice you have for any of our listeners today?
Yeah, I would say if you're like really early out and you are feeling, my experience was I felt trapped by my situation. I felt like I was stuck and there was nothing I could do. So I started just taking really small steps. I would take an hour one night after work and start researching, try to find a program that would work for me. Another big thing that was really helpful for me is informational interviews. So if you're interested in a different career and you're not sure if it's a good fit or if it's doable, see if you can find someone in that field that you could reach out to and just ask them a couple questions. How did you get here? What skills do you use? And what challenges do you face? Things like that. And you would be surprised how, open and happy people are to talk to you. Because if you think about it, it's really flattering. You're basically saying to them, I think what you do is really cool. Can you share, some more about it with me? And that was so helpful for me. I found a few people that were doing this, and it really helped me to see, oh, this is doable. This person's doing it and they did it. I can do it. And then they also gave me, concrete tips and programs that I could look into. So I would say, start small if you have to, and just, and informational interviews are good. And yeah, so I did a lot of due diligence in the beginning too, with like looking at my budget and how much do I need to save before I can do this, things like that. For me, the concrete like data gathering really helped me to see, okay, this is doable. And that kind of relates to what I was saying with the fear. That's what helped me to see, okay, this fear is unfounded because I'm proving to myself that I can do it. And then the last thing I would say is, the one caveat is, know that you're never going to have all the answers, and you are always going to end up diving into the unknown a little bit. And so you have to kind of accept a little bit of that, accept the fear, or you'll never do it, because you're never going to have all the answers. I still don't have all the answers. So yeah, that would be my last little caveat is, do your due diligence, get information that you can, but then, accept some of the unknown and take the leap from there.
Yeah, that's great. I think the informational interviews is a really good piece of advice. That's something that most of us probably didn't think of. I know I myself did not. So thank you for that. Fatima, do you have any advice for anyone looking to make a pivot?
My advice would be, you can hear me. It would be to like write everything down. Like at first, when everything started, I was working crazy hours plus school plus my other jobs. So I was working 2 jobs and also going to school. So I have everything written down, and every day I apply to one job. Every day I like do like an example interview for myself, just of like questions that can be asked. So like if you put those little bits, like an hour every day, that's 5 hours in 5 days that you did. And I would just write it down in a journal or a notebook. Today you did this. So every day I'm like, I'm applying to one job today, or I'm gonna do this today. And it like helps you time manage your time, but also it helps you improve more when it comes, because at the end of the week you already applied for 5 jobs, or you already did 5 classes, like Rosemary said. So it's just that that diligence of like doing it, and you don't have to do it every time, every day, but 30 minutes here, an hour there, always is going to make a difference at the end.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Kristen, how about you? We'll wrap up with your advice and then get to our questions from our listeners.
So kind of looking back on my pivot from going from a history museum, heritage tourism background into literacy for adults, I did not know anything about literacy for adults. So it was going to be a jump for me, but I started to look at the skills I've had over the years. I was even asked at my interview, they pointed out, they said, well, you have a history degree. Why would you be a good development director? And, you know, I remember I used my experience as a barista to really sell myself as a development director, because I've always wanted to help people. That was instilled in me from a really young age. I volunteered a lot with my grandmother. And so when I was just a barista, I would always ask, yeah, how can I help you today? You know, and then they'd say, oh, I want a grande. And I'd say, well, for 40 cents more, you can upgrade it to a venti, you know? And so I realized I had that little bit of salesmanship. I had the relationship building piece, even back then. So, and then that just grew to fruition in the careers that I had since then in nonprofit. So, I would kind of encourage people, just because you have one degree, maybe just because you have an engineering degree doesn't mean you can't be an incredible graphic designer. So, you know, just because you have a history degree doesn't mean you can't raise money. So I think it's understanding who you truly are, what skills you can bring to the table, and how you can impact your business or organization, and having the confidence in yourself to do it. I think I was doing myself a disservice for a long time because I wasn't willing to make that leap myself. And I really wish I had done it sooner. And, you know, I think once you kind of realize that you can achieve, you know, things that you didn't think you could before, you really kind of take off from there. So that, and be good to yourself. So don't, like I said before, step away from your computer. You know, if you got to take an hour or two, be okay with that, and you know, grow your relationships with your supervisors so that they, you know, they can support you in those decisions.
Thanks, Kristen. I completely agree. Taking time for yourself is important. We're in this virtual world. We're always on these Zoom calls. You're really never away from your screen. So making sure you get away from that screen for a little bit is really important right now, more than ever, to keep yourself sane. We have actually a really nice question from Rita saying, how can we, all of us here for the panelists, help you? So Rita, I would say definitely everyone connect with these ladies on LinkedIn and help grow their digital network during this virtual time for sure. I know Nikki Got Gold also said, what advice can I offer my students job searching for the age of COVID? Fatima, I don't know if you have any suggestions for her since you're in the midst of this right now.
Well, keep supporting them like you support me all the time. And just that, like I said, just applying every day. You never know, even if like a position doesn't look like it's great, it might not be the best, but it might lead you to something else. And it also gives you that experience. Like I said, I've been doing interviews and I haven't been getting the job, but I'm getting all those experiences of like my next interview is easier than my last. And I know what to say when those questions come up. So I would say that just that practice is great.
Absolutely. I would say, Nikki, just to add a little bit, we do a mentorship program at our company. And I think the biggest thing I always say to them is take advantage of your internships, connect with everybody at that company. Don't be afraid to ask people on LinkedIn to connect and then utilize them as well. I think the biggest thing for college students is the fear of hearing no. So just encouraging them to, what's the worst that can happen? They don't message you back. Just take advantage of that network that you're building on LinkedIn. But I think we're almost at time here. That went very quick. Thank you to our three panelists. And again, everyone can stay after and network. I'm going to turn it back to Annette.
Thank you, Justine. And I want to thank you for leading the conversation today. You did an awesome job. To our panelists, Fatima, Rosemary, and Kristen, thank you for sharing your stories. I am hoping everyone walks away with a tidbit that they can benefit from, whether it's setting boundaries, managing your own self-confidence, taking time for yourself, taking a breath. I think there's just so much to learn from the stories that we've heard today. So thank you, ladies, for sharing that with us. I also want to, of course, thank Dr. Richardson for her leadership with creating LaunchBox Ladies and building it to the network that it is today. And to our council members who are instrumental in helping us bring together programs and fabulous speakers that have wonderful messages to share. So to Catherine Bailey, Rita Guthrie, Nikki Gutgold, Dakota Reinecke, Tracy Damiani, Leanne George, and Marilyn Reyes, thank you. We have another program coming up. I just want to mention that, and hopefully you'll join us. Look for the invitation for that coming out soon. It'll be called The Power of the Pivot. With that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. This is a good time for us to have some LaunchBox Ladies networking. You can feel free to unmute